Mm. Oh, yeah, there's Katie Mitro's in there with her.
Oh, okay.
Most, for the most part, yeah. Ethel Steve's room's where everyone else is.
I'm running the chat for it.
All right.
I'll do that when I come back.
So welcome everybody. I've got a I got some slides to share, and then it's hard to do all the talking. I found in the Zooms I did with parents in the last couple of weeks, I just kind of did all the talking. I think the easier way when you have over 100 people in the meeting is for folks to put their questions in the chat box, and I've got Ben Harris over here monitoring the chat. And then every couple of minutes I'll stop and we'll answer the questions in the chat. Or you can raise your hand and I'll call on you that way. So let me screen share my slideshow. Can you guys see that? Are we good? Okay. I feel like it's so quiet.
Muted.
Everyone's muted. Hold on, let me just want to be able to see the participants. So I can see if any hands go up. All righty.
Krista, can you monitor participants for hands and I can take questions?
All right, so Ben's going to monitor the chat box and Krista Poulin's going to monitor for hands and let me know if a hand comes up. Thank you guys for taking the time to log in tonight. And we've been doing parent forums for the last couple of weeks. It's been really good, and I think it's gone a long way with making our parents feel better about kids coming back to school and what it will look like if we're part-time. So now it's time to catch you folks up. So we have a similar presentation with just a couple of extra pieces to add. First of all, so our goals is just to clarify the components of the plan, answer some of those commonly asked questions, and provide an opportunity for you guys to share your thoughts, concerns, and suggestions. And we are recording this meetings, and I'll post it on our coronavirus tab on the district website. So if you know people who missed it, they can go back and watch. We're also having a live in-person version of this meeting at 5 o'clock right after this. So we will be ending right on time. It's pretty easy to keep things positive when you're on a Zoom, but just in case, I just want to make sure that people know this is one of those really passionate things, and there are lots of varying points of view. People are very nervous. I know some teachers are very nervous about coming back to school, so we just want to make sure that we're respectful to everyone. Like I said, it's easier if people stay muted unless you raise your hand and I'll call on you. And if Mr. Penna joins us, I'll hand the mic over to him at times. One of the things I want you guys to know is this is a very expensive adventure, right? You all know, I mean, even just to give one small example, we were feeding about 1,500 kids 15 meals a week every week from March to June for free. And we haven't seen that reimbursement yet. We are going to need to hire more staff. We've done some renovations in the buildings and modified some spaces. We've had to add isolation spaces for the nurse's office and so on. And of course, order all kinds of new equipment. So we are eligible for at least 2 different sets of funds from the CARES Act and to reimburse the district for the costs associated with the pandemic. They have been we're looking at probably about $3 million. And we're going to need every penny of that. The nice thing is that, but in order to access those funds, the district must follow all the requirements of the DOE. So, for example, things like face coverings. A lot of parents have been asking, well, if we're a school district and our board votes to do something different, why do we have to follow those rules? It's not law, but we do. And in order to get that money, we have to certify that we're following all the rules in the DOE's plan. I'm going to start with employment stuff because I know some of you already came to the parent presentation and most of the presentation is similar. So thought I'd put the employment questions right up front. And then, and that way, if some people want to just, tune out or listen in the background for the rest of it, they can. So we know that some of you have been really impacted by COVID-19 in your families. Oops. And or you personally have some issues that might make coming back to work a little bit stressful. So I've tried to make an easy flow chart and I'll make sure that this and I'll put this link. Well, this link is in here in the slideshow, so you guys can grab it if you want to, and copy and paste it, or you can. I'll put a copy of it in the chat box too. But essentially, the flow chart's 2 pages long, so I'll kind of go through it. But what do you do if you're in one of those situations where you're wondering about return to work or whether or not return to work in person is possible for you? So there's a little handout here, and like I said, we'll make that handout available. But the biggest thing is essentially the easiest answer is start with your principal and then probably human resources. Contact both of them in most cases, or at the very least your principal. So some of the cut and dry easy ones. I have a serious health condition that prevents me from working in a school setting during this pandemic. That isn't people who are at risk because of something. This is some people who are currently battling a serious health condition, a COPD, cancer treatment, and their doctors are like, no work at all. In that case, you need to contact your school principal or supervisor in human resources as soon as possible. Also, you might have some, I care for someone in my house with a serious health condition who's high risk. Lots of us have elderly parents right now or relatives that are in our house and they may be more at risk, but if they actually are being treated for a serious health condition and you're the caretaker for them, you might have some options here too. So you need to complete your FMLA paperwork, provide medical documentation. That would be the first step. So discuss options with your supervisor and human resources. Is it feasible to work remotely? For some people might be able to work remotely and some people might not. It depends on your job assignment. It depends on how flexible we're able to be. Or is FMLA the right way to go for you? Same for people who are caretakers. There might be reasonable accommodations that we can make to reduce your risk of contracting COVID-19 while you're at work, such as workstation adaptations or additional protective equipment, so that you don't have to, so that you're a little safer when you come home. It's less of a risk when you come home to that person you take care of. The other options that sort of involve human resources and employment is my childcare or my child's school is temporarily closed due to COVID-19, or I need to stay home to care for a child who's quarantined. If that's the case, so if you need to stay home for a quarantined child for a few days at some point during the year, or if every childcare option's been exhausted and you're in a tough spot, you contact your principal or supervisor and human resources. You may be eligible for up to 80 hours of paid time off at a 2/3 rate of pay via the Families First Coronavirus Act, or you might be eligible for the Emergency FMLA Expansion Act if that's the right fit for you, although that one, after that first 80 hours, would then come out of any time that you have accrued. I'm required to quarantine due to government order or the advice of my healthcare provider. I always joke because I work in the office next to Mr. Penna. Mr. Penna caught COVID-19, and the CDC said that because of the work setting or because I would have to quarantine for 14 days. I'm required. Then I may be eligible for up to 80 hours of paid time or 2 weeks if you're salaried off a full rate of pay via the Family First Coronavirus Act. We do want to note though that those who travel out of state for non-essential reasons, such as visiting relatives or vacationing, would not be eligible for this. This is more like I have to quarantine because of an illness from someone in my house, or an illness from someone in my work, so on. we want to make sure people know, because I know that people will be moving their kids into college in the next couple of weeks, and some people might be traveling out of state, that if you leave the state and if you go to Massachusetts or Rhode Island, you, in particular, you do need to quarantine for 14 days by governor's order, or you need to get a negative COVID test before you return to work. We have information available if you need it. It's pretty easy to find online. If you're looking for good places to go to get a quick turnaround negative COVID test, Krista Poulin had really good luck in Saco, got it back in less than 24 hours just a week or two ago. But I think just keep that in mind when you're making your travel plans, and make sure you plan appropriately. If you're going to New Hampshire, Connecticut, Vermont, New Jersey, New York, you do not need to. But any other state, you do need to follow the governor's orders, and we would need to follow those too. I'm in. Then there's that. I'm in a category. This is where I think most people who are really worried fall is. I'm in a category that puts me at risk for complications if I contract COVID-19. You know, some of us have diabetes. Some of us are at advanced age. Some of us, and so on. Age isn't a disability, by the way. We can't classify age as a disability. But you need to contact your principal, and then we can talk about what can we do to make to reduce your risk, such as workstation modifications or enhanced PPE. We can't, because those probably the people in this green box, you know, it's probably not appropriate. You're probably not going to get FMLA. Probably isn't the right choice. Doctors probably aren't going to say that you have to stay home. So it's really more like, what can we do to reduce your risk? I know the question that's on the tip of everyone's tongue is probably, what if, is there going to be an option for teachers to choose to teach remotely and not come in person? And the answer is maybe a few, but it's really going to come down to your job assignment, how the remote learning, how the classes fall, who would teach your kids that you have in person if you're at home. So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle to work out. And so right now, you know, we're hoping to really make those people who have to be at home to try to do what we can so that they can continue to work. And we're hoping that we can find options that fit for everybody's lives. But we can't sort of give people the choice or make it. We just wouldn't be able to have school if we did. That's a good time to stop. Are there any questions so far?
There are no questions at this time.
I don't
All
see
right.
hands.
Okay. This is all the stuff that you've seen, a lot of this already if you've been watching the stuff that has gone out. And I thank so many of you for responding to all the different surveys and thought exchanges. And we received, you know, I received no less than 4 pages single-spaced of questions and concerns from the SVTA. So thank you for sharing all of that. I'm hoping we'll be able to answer most of those tonight. Some of them are building specific and you should talk to your principal. But we are required, the DOE is requiring every school district in the state of Maine to have a plan with 3 levels, red, yellow, and green. Red is all instruction is remote, right? We're shut down. Yellow is a hybrid schedule of both remote and in-person instruction. And green is all students attend school. So if we have to go back to red, like we did this spring, well, we've already, you know, everyone's kind of had a taste of what that's like. We did that for a while, but all students will be taught via remote instruction. For those of you in elementary land, the plan is to, you know, once kids get settled in and learn how to use them the first few days, the iPads will be going back and forth in backpacks, so everyone will have devices, we'll have to be able to dive right into remote instruction. You know, we think we'll know what's coming and hope we never have to go to red. If Maine stays the way it is, we'll never have to do that. We're in great shape right now with our cases and our numbers. But but if we had to go into red, there were a few things that were really clear from the student and teacher and parent feedback, parents especially, is if you have to go back to remote, please, 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 everyone has to be on the same format. Yes.
Lori, I have a question on the chat.
Sure.
So Heather asks, Any accommodations, ideas for staff with school-aged children on the students' days off?
Yes. So you're worrying about childcare for kids on their days off. We have a couple of things that we can do. One is we have gotten an agreement amongst the other superintendents in the area, in the Cumberland, York County area. Paul has been working with them, and everyone is agreeing that if somebody needs a superintendent's agreement so that their work schedule matches their kid's schedule, everyone will accommodate that. I know that would only help a few people, but if you're in a place where, you know, my kid is in Wyndham and I'm here and our schedules don't match, it would be so much easier for daycare if my kid came to Bonny Eagle. They open superintendent's agreements for staff. The other piece is we're working on, we've got a lot of thoughts in place of planning and organizing, see if we can't get some of those high school kiddos who will have 2 days off a week and who can do their homework at night, to National Honor Society, Student Council, and so on, putting together a sort of vetted list of possible teenagers who can help you out with childcare. Help our staff out with childcare on those days, probably in your own homes. We probably wouldn't be piling them up in a building and classroom and try to do it here. Those are the two on the tip of my tongue. Oh, and also we are working with all of the rec programs in our district, and all three of them that have rec are planning to provide childcare on the for the independent learning days back and forth for the kids. So if your kids are in Bonny Eagle schools and normally go to rec or are interested in rec, keep your ears and eyes peeled online for that.
All right. So do you want me to hold on questions till you get through
Let me get through the 3 plans and then we'll, 3 slides. So anyway, if we're in level 1 red, common platform, really important. Seesaw, K-5, Google Classroom, 6 through 12. And I know some of you might have used Classroom Dojo or Padlet or had your own web page or did different things. Really strong feedback that was very confusing for parents, really hard. We have purchased the Premier Seesaw, so some of those rostering issues that specialists ran into last year won't be a problem anymore. Google has enhanced Google Meets and it's upgrading because we're going to lose our free Zoom. So you definitely want to practice, and we'll be doing some PD in August for those of you who want to brush up or get some advanced instruction on how to use those 2 platforms. The other thing that parents and students said loud and clear is we need more synchronous instruction on a set schedule. They need to know that, you know, ELA is at 9 o'clock to 9:30 every Friday, and if we're remote, it's every day that time. Like, so your administrators are going to be building a set schedule for instruction, and it needs to have increased synchronous face-to-face instruction. Most of you did that. Most of you went above and beyond. So, I mean, I think, but we did have some people who were just doing recordings of their own videos of their teaching and not any live teaching. That was definitely something that people didn't like. They really want that. They want to see their teachers. And pre-COVID grading will remain in place. We've got time to plan and prepare now. We're not flying by the seat of our pants. This switch between red, yellow, and green could go on for a year or 2. We need to be able to still provide high quality education to kids, and we'll have to figure that out. Level 2 yellow, the most likely scenario for the start of the year. We'll find out actually tomorrow from the state what color our counties are. So just so you know, they are using a metric, an algorithm, and they determine the amount of community spread in each county and the number of cases and so on. And then every week, starting this Friday, they will update this graphic and tell everybody what color their county is, green, yellow, or red. We are in 2 counties, so if the 2 counties come out a different color, we get to choose which one we're going to be, but our whole district will be the same color. So, and then again, that color just helps you determine or make a choice about what you want to do. It isn't required that your school plan is yellow just because your county, if your county is green, we could still open in yellow, for example. So but it gives you an idea, but that's sort of the guide to use for making decisions about what you're going to do in your school. And we also are heavily leaning toward opening in yellow no matter what, even if we're green. The likely scenario I've heard is that every county is going to be green except Cumberland County will be yellow. I've not heard any schools who are opening green for every grade level though, no matter what. I think everybody is feeling like we could start the year with the hybrid plan. That would give us a chance to get everyone used to all the new routines and procedures with fewer kids in the building. Also, nobody can figure out how to feed everyone in green and keep them 6 feet apart. And one of the rules is they have to eat 6 feet apart. Well, how do you, so if every kid were in the building, that'd be really hard. So we're still working on that one and working with the state on that one. But if we're in yellow, students are divided into 2 groups, the BE group and the Scott group. Your kids will find out your students are going to find out what group they're in on Monday in an email. Parents know that they're going to get an email on Monday that's going to tell them whether they're in the BE group or the Scott group. Families families with kids in more than one school or siblings in the buildings, everyone in a household will be on the same days. We've worked really hard to do that. The schedule driver, honestly, is high school. Their groups are the hardest to divide because they have such complicated schedules. Those and then so if there's a family with someone in high school, middle, and elementary, it's the high school students' days that determine the other 2 kids' days. They're essentially split alphabetically with a bunch of exceptions, and then it's approximately 50-50, but classrooms won't be exactly 50-50. You might have 10 one day and 6 the next, so one group and 6 the other. Independent learning days. So they have 2 days of in-person instruction, regular school for you guys as teachers, but you'd have half as many students in the room. They'll be limited. I know the elementary principals are kind of saying, probably not going to flex group outside of the room at the very beginning, but with smaller groups in your rooms, you'll be able to individualize that instruction for like flex reading levels pretty easily. If you only have 8 kids in the room, it's a lot easier. You wouldn't have to have 4 cycling groups and so on. And also, but stay tuned from your principals for details about your actual teaching schedule. Then the students go to school for 2 days. The other 2 days, so if they're Monday, Tuesday in school, they're Wednesday, Thursday, they're independent learning. So, sorry. So that independent learning means that regular classroom teachers are going to be busy teaching their other group those 2 days. So they will not be providing that independent learning. There will be no synchronous instruction from the classroom and teacher. So instead, you guys will be planning things for them to do that reinforce, that are formative, that are scaffolding, or maybe it's content that doesn't fit in the in-person days, depending on your grade level. At the elementary, would probably be heavy focus on literacy and math on Monday on the 2 days in person, and then then science and social studies activities and things like that might be the things you put in your independent days. But parents have been told that their regular classroom teacher will not be available for Zooms or live questions or anything on the independent days, because we know you'll be busy with your students in the building. There are some students with intensive special needs that may attend more than 2 days per week. They may go all 4 days. We're looking mostly at students who spend more than 70% of their time in the self-contained setting, and it's on a case-by-case basis, so special ed is working on that. But we have to be careful, and you need to keep this in mind if you have resource students in your room or kids who mainstream into your room. If there's someone who gets specialized instruction for an hour a day, they're going to have to get that specialized instruction an hour a day. And when they're in person, it'll be in person. And when it's remote, and when they're at home on independent days, it'll be remote. And then on Fridays, it'll be remote. So then all students are on Fridays or remote. All staff are at home on Fridays. I know it would be easier if teachers were able to be in the buildings on those days to do their teaching remotely. And we haven't made 100% decision yet, but I think maintenance right now is leaning towards asking everybody to teach remotely from home, because they're going to have a lot of catching up to do on Fridays. If they spend every night sanitizing surfaces and running around cleaning up COVID style, they're going to need those Fridays to do the things that they didn't have time to do during the week, like taking care of the lawns and outside stuff and dusting, shelves and things they might not get to in the regular week, cleaning offices and spaces that that got neglected a little on the other days, and so on. Level 3 green is all students attend, but everyone would still need to wear face coverings, and all those health and safety practices would still be in effect. And again, I think we're still working on some details for what green might look like, because we've been focusing on probably starting the year with yellow unless something drastic changes in the state. Now's a good time to stop for questions.
Okay.
What do we have?
So Anna Bennett asks, I heard you say that 80 hours of pay is available if Dr. CDC requires us to quarantine.
Yes.
What if we have to quarantine more than once? Will the CARES Act pay each time we are required to quarantine?
No, the CARES Act only pays for that once. So if you got quarantined by the CDC or your doctor for 14 days, you can get 2 weeks of pay that doesn't come out of your time. But if it happens twice to the same person in a year, well, then you have to, you're on your own for it and use your sick time.
Karen Haskell would like to know that she saw a parent interest in open house and wondering if that could be done via Zoom, not feeling like people doing an open house in person is a good idea right now. Ms. Regan responded that we are working as principals on coming up with alternative for open houses. Didn't know if you had other insight on that.
We have not made our open house plans yet. I think we do have admin retreat next week, and I know start of school and those teacher days and things like that are a big piece of the list. And it might vary a little from building to building. We've talked about, we know that parents have been asking things like, are we going to get to come in and see how this room is really set up? Am I going to be able to come in and feel what it's going to be like for my kid? Like, so we don't know if we're going to do open house in traditional way, but with just groups and limit it, like call in groups by the alphabetical groups on each hour or half hour, or if we're going to do a Zoom or a video, we're not sure yet.
Laura, you touched on this a little bit, but somebody asked about teaching live. They did that a lot, but kids didn't show up, and many colleagues in the same situations. What can we do to get kids to attend synchronous classes? That's
a great question. I'm hoping that what we provide for students will be more consistent, because we've got more planning time and we're doing a full curriculum, so they'll know that this isn't, pass fail emergency instruction, and that'll get them more. But I think we have to be prepared for the fact that some students might only be joining us on our 2 live days, in-person days, and that those other days might be hit or miss. And we talked a lot about that today when we in one of our committees that's working on instructional expectations.
I would also add that Scott Nason has hotspots ready to go now that we didn't have before. So if we start with that expectation, we might be better off starting that way than trying to catch up.
Right. In case you guys didn't hear, Ben said we already have hotspots now. So for people who need internet access, we'll be able to get them started right away. There won't be a lag. We won't have to try to get devices out to people who don't have them, because we're going to send those iPads home right away. I don't think we have all the answers to how to get every kid to do everything they're supposed to do.
There's a couple of questions about flexibility with teachers teaching live with their own children at home. And
we right now we have to stick with we're going to have to stick with a live teaching schedule. I think that our parents are loud and clear about that. I know that might be hard if you've got little ones at home. We're putting together, that's what this slide says right here. So we have 2 committees working on instructional expectations, a K-5 committee and a 6-12 committee. And I know the 6-12's already met a couple of times. It's a combination of coaches, administrators, teachers who are working on so that we all have similar, so regardless of what school you go to or what content you teach, there'll be a similar expectation from the teachers. And so we'll be putting that together, and it's well underway, and we should have something shortly to share with folks, probably next week, Krista Poulin says. But we know we have to think about making sure that we provide, a consistent presence for our students because we're their teachers. We're also going to provide some suggestions about how you might set up your space at home so that you can maintain your privacy. I know some people are concerned about Zooming from home and kids could see my house and whatever. So we'll put some suggestions out there. We're also going to put some suggestions out for students about that. you know, and we've also done we're going to post a legal statement too. We've done our homework with it and gotten some legal advice, and we don't have to worry about it being a FERPA violation if you're doing a virtual classroom. There's not an expectation, kids will know it, kids talk to each other in the classroom, and that's fine. And even if there's somebody in the background, there's not that expectation of that level of privacy. We also we also plan to ask all teachers to record what their live instruction, and it'll be on Google Meets, not Zoom, but I always say Zoom, but we need to record live instruction and post it on our Google Classrooms and our Seesaws for those kids who do miss it.
I believe you answered this question already, but it was before. Friday is a remote learning day, and just why not Wednesday?
Yeah, I didn't today, but it comes up at every meeting we've had. Yes, we picked Friday, and we're sticking with it. There were numerous discussions with all the superintendents in Cumberland, New York County about whether on the hybrid day you were going to take Wednesday as your day off or Friday as your day off. And there was sort of equal reasons for both. But honestly, we leaned towards Friday because, and most are doing Friday, although I know 2 districts have switched back to Wednesday. But most are sticking with Friday. And we chose Friday, honestly, for staff safety, because it'll be a lot better for you guys as adults who are a little bit more at risk for contracting to have a 3-day break from kids in a row. And that'll give a chance if any symptoms or anything might crop up, gives a little bit longer break. And the custodians felt like, and the managers and maintenance felt like that there wouldn't be super cleaning on Wednesday in between the 2 groups. That's how parents kind of picture it. And the cleaning we do to disinfect will be the same cleaning every night. The Friday extra cleaning will probably be more things that they didn't get to during the week that have nothing to do with the disinfecting.
There's a few of these questions about teachers with their own children. Can they request the BE of the Scots day, or is a day that works better for their family?
Yes, so just like any other student, so you're going to get your assignment on Monday, but if for work reasons your children need to switch to a different BE or Scott day group, they need to switch to a different group. Just like any other parent, just put that request in and we'll do our best to accommodate it. Accommodations will probably be easier to do if doesn't involve transportation. Just throwing that out there. If you drive your kids to school with you or something, because the bus is the big issue. We can only fit 24 students on buses that are built for 77 now. So so bus routes are huge, and that is so I would love to say yes, we'll accommodate everyone who wants a switch, but it really and I'm less worried about the classes being uneven and more worried about how we would get seats on the bus for everybody.
So Lori, let's see. Anna Dowling wondered about teachers receiving the BE versus the Scots list, but that list isn't really finalized until we get the parent.
Right.
We have the initial one ready to roll out in Monday's email, but then it'll be finalized in the coming week or 2.
The BE list and the Scott list will be going out to parents on Monday. I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't share a copy of that list as long as on Monday to staff talks or whatever, or to teacher groups, but just know that it's really fluid until bus routes are done, and it's going to take weeks to do bus routes. And we're expecting parents to ask for changes. Some we're going to try to limit them. I think but if you're wondering, well, if the groupings of your kids, what it'll look like as to, because I'm sure you're all wondering, well, I'd really like these 2 kids separated, or I'd really like these kids to be together because they're in the same level. We really can't go down that road because it would get very complicated very fast. All we can do is remember that we're going to have much smaller groups. And so if we have much smaller groups of kids, we're going to be able to accommodate them individually a little bit better than we normally would in the classroom. And so, instead of having 20, you're going to have 10, and it's going to feel really different. So we're just going to go with that and see.
There's a bunch of questions here, but I think we should just
want to keep going for a minute? Okay. So instructional expectations will be coming out. Masks, face coverings. Ugh. People are very passionate about how they feel about masks and face coverings. And as you can guess, parents are really worried about, especially with the littles, how those littles are going to do wearing a face covering all day long. We don't have, oops, I put that slide in the wrong place. Let me go back and let me say PPE will be provided for all teachers, okay? So we will have plenty of supplies for you. We will have cloth masks. We have paper masks. We have shields, which I'm guessing will be a popular choice because I think you want kids to be able to see your face. We will have 2 different kinds of shields. We have all kinds of things. We have those masks that are regular face masks but are made out of clear plastic so people can see your mouth. So we're going to have all kinds of stuff, and gloves. And for those that work with kids who who might be extra body fluid type, spitters or whatever, in special ed, we've got gowns, we've got special screens that have a neck thing. We have so much stuff. So and it's all coming in, it's all been ordered, and the very few items are back ordered. We even have N95s. So so please don't so you don't need to worry about providing any of that yourself. If you need backups or spares, we'll have plenty. Just to give you an idea, we're getting like 3,000 boxes of 50 paper masks, 8,000 cloth masks, 500 face shields, and so on and so on and so on. Back to masks for kids. So all staff are required to wear face covering at all times at work, unless you're 6 feet away from someone and you're taking a break from your face covering, right? And that is something that those who've been working this summer, we're all doing the same. And and those of you who have been into work know this, and we're asking visitors to do the same. We ask parents to do that at the forums. The only thing I would say is, if you're so if you need something that we didn't provide for you, don't hesitate to ask. We want to make sure we keep our employees safe. I think kids are pretty low. Kids are unlikely to catch it and unlikely to give it to anybody, but we know we need to take care of our adults. Everyone will be required to wear face coverings on both yellow and green plans. Kids will have to wear them on the bus. Everyone wears them in common areas, in the classroom, when they can't be socially distanced. Let's say you have students who aren't developmentally ready to wear a cloth face covering. We have screens for those kids too. So if they need a face shield, especially our little 4-year-olds, it might work a lot better to have a shield for them than a cloth covering. But they have to wear something. The DOE, the commissioner was really clear, like, we can't say, oh, this kid is not developmentally ready, so they don't have to wear anything at all. We have to try to at least get them into a shield or get them behind a plexiglass desk thing. We've ordered a whole bunch of those rectangle desktop dividers that are plexi, so that you can put them between 2 students or divide kids up at a table. So every elementary classroom will have like 4 of those. Middle and high classrooms will have at least 1 to start. All specialists, counselors, people who work in offices or in close quarters with kids will have a screen to put between yourself and the child. So you should have all of that. So kids with medical issues, anxiety, or aren't developmentally ready to wear a mask, we will have shields for them, but we don't have enough for plastic shields for every kid. Anything goes for students when they come in the door. They can wear masks, bandanas, gaiters, scarves, plastic shields. Anything that's considered a face covering covers the mouth, nose, and chin. We have plenty of paper backups for kids who soil them. We're going to provide all the kids with cloth masks to start the year, and probably give them more if they need them. And like I said, we're going to have classrooms, and when we're in yellow, it should be pretty easy because many of you, for the most part, we've done lots of tests and taken photos of sample desk arrangements. Sorry, I didn't realize there's people waiting to get in. There we go. 15 minutes. So classroom adaptations are there. Also, there's enhanced health and safety routines, and you need to know that I've had a lot of questions like, how much cleaning am I going to have to do in my room? Am I going to have to disinfect my room? And the answer is no. Custodial staff will be doing enhanced cleaning procedures during the day and each night. Bathrooms and kitchens and those places will be cleaned more frequently during the day. They'll be checking soap and hand sanitizer dispensers more frequently during the day. You might even see more daytime custodial help during those peak hours of 11 to 2 But that will mean probably fewer people available at night. So, or if you know anyone who wants to work, we're hiring. Desks and tables in classrooms will be cleaned between classes and whenever groups of students change. This is the only part that teachers have to pay attention to as far as cleaning goes. So every classroom will have a little squirt bottle with some soap and water or mild detergent, something kid safe, but that is CDC says is perfect for cleaning tables, and a brown roll of paper towels. And teacher can go around, squirt the table or desktops real quick at the end of each class period at the middle, if you're at the high school, after every block, at the end of the block, squirt, squirt, squirt. Every kid wipes their own table before they leave the room. That can even be done in elementary school. Last night I was talking to a preschool teacher and she's like, yes, the kids can do that themselves. They love to do that kind of stuff. Anything in the classroom has to be soap and water and mild detergent. I know some of you might be lucky enough to have stockpiles of Clorox wipes at your house, but those don't come to school. Those are not on the kids should be around the classroom list. So we have to use the school approved products. We'll have MSDS sheets available for people who are worried about the chemicals. The only other thing, we also have bought ionizing foggers for every class, every building. So every night, everything gets disinfectant fogged. Your room will get fogged at night. So when you come in the morning, it'll be all clean. We'll have an increased emphasis on hand washing, and hand sanitizer will be available in every classroom. What if someone at school tests positive for COVID-19? The answer is we'll follow the guidelines provided by the Maine CDC. There's a lot of details about how that all works if you want to look it up yourself on the website. But essentially, the likeliness is that, let's say, Mrs. Smith's class, a student tests positive. Mrs. Smith's classroom, though, if they've been pretty isolated and maybe only been out at recess with 2 other classes and so on, and they're in the oak wing of the building, it might mean that only the oak wing of the building needs to close and other kids could still come to school. In the smaller buildings, though, it's likely that the whole school would have to close for 2 to 5 days for extreme cleaning and contact tracing. Then after that, the CDC might determine that there are certain students or certain people, depending on the contact, and it would have to be, they use the word intimate contact. It doesn't mean anybody that was in the room with the person. With intimate contact with the person who tested positive might also have to quarantine. So there might be some kids or staff that have to quarantine. But again, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. Depends on the school, depends on the circumstances, and how well we trace it. It wouldn't be our responsibility to do the contact tracing. It would not be we just would follow what they suggest for us to do about school. It's not our responsibility to ask people to get COVID tests, other than the out-of-state travel requiring a negative test, or the way to get out of a 14-day quarantine is to get a test. But we aren't asking people like, oh, we sent your kid home with a fever, they can't come back till they have a test. We're not doing that, because there's so many reasons why a kid might have a fever. It's up to them and their doctor. So our advice is, your child has a fever, they can't come back until they're 48 hours without a fever, without fever-reducing meds. But you need to contact your physician and find out if what's appropriate. And that goes for staff too. We're not requiring tests of staff at this time. Those decisions are between you and your doctor. Out-of-state travel is my last thing. If we have to follow the governor's guidance. Did I already talk about this?
You did.
I did. So don't go to Cape Cod over Labor Day weekend, because then you got to run around and get a test to get back to work.
All right, I think a lot of questions have been answered already, but one is, will parents have the option to have their kids do remote learning all year?
We aren't selling it that way, but I do have a slide for remote learning. I forgot. We're in the process of developing a plan for remote learning for students whose families are not comfortable with school right now. That is, so we will have I don't know what that number will be. Our preliminary surveys look like 15 to 18% of the people said they might be doing remote learning, but things have changed and people's attitudes have changed. So there's a lot of stuff in the news right now. So we're not sure how many are going to choose remote learning. Classroom, just like we said before, you guys are not required to teach your remote kids in addition to your regular classes. We are going to come up with a separate plan for remote. Is probably going to be using Edmentum ExactPath and Edmentum courseware. Edmentum courseware for high school. That's more like Plato, if you ever heard of that, with staff supporting kids remotely. So we might be using our support staff or teachers who have to be home because they are on have a serious medical condition, but they still want to try to teach. So we'll have those people hooking up with students who are remote and managing it that way. We also might be hiring some bench subs and some temporary people to help with remote learning until we get settled in. We're right now, our message is that that students are remote learning, but at any time the parent wants to integrate their kids back into school, they can. It's not like they have to choose and stick with their decision. Right now we're going to try, we want to make sure we have something for people who don't feel comfortable, but at the same time, we know that in-person instruction is what's best, and we need to work our way back there.
All right, Lisa McClone asks, with late arrivals planned for Wednesdays, is there a plan to balance time lost for student schedules to attend Wednesdays or late arrivals?
Good question. We're not having Wednesday late arrivals. So we'll have to put that out. The late arrival, the professional development will happen on the Fridays. So right now we're looking at doing PD every Friday morning for middle and high for 2 hours, and then starting the remote instruction day on like a late arrival type of schedule. And an elementary is probably going to do it opposite, like you teach from 8 to so-and-so, and then the last 2 hours of the day would be professional development on those Fridays. Or meetings. Those will be, and when I say professional development, that might be team time, meetings, planning, and everyone will get a prep period every day.
Which will also help with
right.
the teaching when your children
right.
are at home, because if you got elementary children at home,
right.
it might be opposite.
Yep, it might work out a little better. So the answer is we're not digging into late arrivals. We know that our Monday holidays might impact if it goes on for more than a month, things like that. But right now, Wednesdays will be a regular scheduled day.
Mrs. Moore wants to know about Maine DOE guidelines state that mask breaks should be occurring in settings where students can be at least 6 feet apart. I think we covered that, but and outside, or at least with the windows open.
That's a recommendation, but we don't have to have them outside for mask breaks. And you can open the windows. Having the windows open when weather's nice is a suggestion, but not a requirement. And our ventilation systems, I know it doesn't feel that way when it's hot out, believe me. I know rooms don't feel like they have great ventilation, but our ventilation systems in our schools are tested and exceed the requirements for preventing COVID. But I know like I said, I know there's rooms where it doesn't feel that way. But we are going with, if your kids are sitting in their seats 6 feet apart from other kids, they can have a mask break. As a matter of fact, I would say you want to do that whenever it's appropriate. You also could bring your kids outside every hour for a couple of minutes for a mask break. But mask breaks are required, and we should be doing those. And for staff too. And our rule is you just need to be 6 feet away from other people when you take a mask break.
Lori, what's the deal when students refuse to wear a mask?
Oh, well, we know that we're going to have kids who refuse to wear a mask. And I think it's going to be age appropriate responses and a focus on positive behavioral supports and a focus on working together. And I know, do I know that there's going to be some 15-year-old who's stubborn about it and who is and ends up sitting in the office for 2 hours pouting, deciding whether or not to put a mask on, and if they're really defiant, they'll have to go home probably. But I think for the most part, we know we're going to have to remind kids constantly. You're going to have to say, please pull your mask up 100 times a day because it's around their chin probably. We are not in the business of making this feel punitive. This is like a health and safety measure, and talking about we need to all make sure we're safe, or before you walk over somebody to give them individual help, please put your mask up so I can come over and help you. I think that your principals and your instructional coaches and people who work with your grade level will have lots of suggestions. Do we know it's going to be a pain? Yes. And that's one of the reasons that we want to start in yellow if we can, because that'll have fewer kids in the building so they can get used to all these routines. the extra hand washing routines, wearing face coverings.
Are we wiping chairs too, is a question?
Nope. All you have to worry about is the desk surface and again, the chairs and everything will get wiped at night and then ionized at the end of the day. But there's just, we're doing a lot of reading. We meet with our health team and our district doctor every week. We've gotten a lot of information, and there's the surface cleaning is less of an issue. Catching it from a surface is pretty small to start with. Regular soap and water cleanings and regular daily cleanings should be enough. We're going above and beyond because we're going to do the ionizing at night, and the custodians are going to do extra cleaning. So for example, normally when a custodian comes into a classroom at night, they might just wipe off the tables with a wipe and get the doorknob. Now they're going to have to do the top of the table, the legs of the table, the side of the table, and so on. So it's going to be longer, more labor intensive for them. But as classroom teachers, you just need to worry about keeping those tabletop surfaces clean if groups of kids change, and you know, enforcing and encouraging kids, you know, let's wash our hands before we go to eat. Let's wash our hands after we eat. Let's wash our hands before we go outside. Let's wash our hands when we get back in, and so on. And just encouraging hand washing and using that hand sanitizer.
Or what are the guidelines around sharing equipment in art or phys ed?
We're there aren't a lot of guidelines. It's just about sharing equipment and stuff. But we are planning on individual materials for kids. So instead of buying that big box of 1,000 crayons for a room, we're gonna, you know, you want to get individual little boxes of crayons for each kid in your room. When we're putting together lists of suggested items, if people want to donate things or bring things in, we want to make sure that we use that we think of it that way. Principals are already all over this. Some buildings have already ordered some stuff, you know, little pencil boxes for each kid, so they have their own supplies. When it comes to manipulatives and things that are usually shared, you know, like you aren't going to dump that 500 blocks onto the floor. You want to give kids a pile of blocks.
Well, we have to end this in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
I can't see that. Hold on one sec, folks. So you want to, we're talking about procedures, and your details will come later, but like if kids use math manipulatives, you might want to put them all in a bucket. And then at the end of the day, you want to spread them out on a table so that they get hit with the ionizer with the disinfectant fog. And then otherwise you'll be stuck, you know, you might have to wash stuff. But we also know that paper and book surfaces, the virus dies like in a matter of minutes, but just to be overly cautious, library books or books that kids have handled will go into a bin, and they sit for 24 to 48 hours before they get recirculated or before other kids use them. So we just have to pick up some new routines, but I think everybody already probably has thought in their head how they might do that. You don't have to remove every toy and every block and every piece out of the rooms. You just have to be mindful of sort of how you might organize stuff.
The term I use with maintenance today is we need to be
minimalists with our stuff, right?
Just because to start the year, anyway.
Right, to start the year, and then I think it'll get easier. One thing we do ask that people not have in their rooms, that if it hasn't already come out, you want to remove, is like beanbag chairs, stuffed animals, seat cushions that are cloth, because cloth is harder for the custodians to clean. It can't really be wiped down. And that might be overkill, but we're just going to do that for now. Also, if you have a lot of old junky, you know, wheelie office chairs from Ruth's that are nasty and old, this is the time to get rid of them. And just try to, and you know, if we need to replace some items, we could probably use some of our COVID funds in places where we need to replace things.
Heather asked about spouses who work out of state. Do we need a test?
No.
The answer is no.
Only the person that travels out of state needs a test to come to work or to be in public. So you don't, so if you have a family member a spouse who travels for work, you don't have to quarantine because they've been out of state. It's only the person who actually travels.
It's a question about what are we going to do with substitute teachers?
Oh, great question. Do you know anybody who wants a job? We're planning on hiring bench subs for each building, in addition to regular subs who would fill in when you put in for time off. So we've got openings right now for long-term subs. We've got openings. We're going to be looking to hire some bench subs who just show up every day and fill in where needed. And we're also going to have hiring regular subs. And I have signed a few applications this week. So I've made a connection with USM. We're going to try to build a partnership with the ETEP program and with the students at USM. So if they're doing online classes and they have time during the day and they would like to sub, we can work up a set schedule for them so that they have reliable hours and so on. So we're working on it.
We want to chatter about student start date.
Yeah, we are, right now, we're planning on starting our regular start date. And we have the idea that maybe the BE group goes one day and the Scott group goes another day. And so, and then and then start on the week after Labor Day, regular thing. But if, but, you know, we haven't, like I said, figured out what we're gonna do for orientations and start of year and open houses. So stay tuned for details.
I need to go. I know. I think there's no.
Same shit, different day.
I need to wrap things up because we have the live in-person meeting starting in about 4 minutes. I just want to thank all of you for coming. I will, so I'll post this slideshow and a recording of this meeting, and for people, and on the coronavirus tab on the district webpage, along with, that's where we've been putting the parent information as well. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.